Hello there, nerds. My name is Dr. Jordan Breeding, and welcome to another installment of Your Brain on Cracked. I realized that the shtick was supposed to be that I diagnosed you with some disease, and I've basically ignored that part for like 30 episodes. But that's not gonna change today, because now I'm Physician Jordan Mating, the dashing host of Your Head Meat on Meth, and actually welcome to the one and only time annual Weirdly Specific Acting Awards for acting specifically. You're welcome. Before we start the show in earnest, let's open with a little light banter. Has anyone seen Gene Roddenberry's Detective Pikachu? What the hell was that, huh?
If your dad was here, he would you so hard, your bones would pop.
I'm convinced this movie only came into existence because a film exec smoked 12 packs of Mad Libs and threw a bunch of darts at plushies in a terrifying abandoned Toys R Us and demanded his assistant write a script based on what he hit. It's literally the only possible explanation for how the first live-action Pokemon movie was an adaptation of an obscure game where a guy's soul inhabits the body of a Pikachu who talks and looks kind of like Ryan Reynolds. Although, to be fair, that last part is actually not that crazy because Reynolds, for some reason, is always swapping bodies. Which brings us to our first nomination. It all seems to have started in 2000 with Bolt Neck, a horror comedy starring Reynolds as a dead dude who's reanimated with the brain of a murderer. It's basically Frankenstein, only instead of exploring the themes of sentience, parenthoods, and nature versus nurture, it's just Reynolds exploring the theme of beating annoying teenagers to death, which, you know, let's not dismiss offhand. Maybe there's something to that. I mean, they laughed at Galileo too.
Look like a Dutch hooker.
Reynolds' 2011 movie, The Change-Up, was similarly themed, but perhaps a little bit less dignified, as it involved Reynolds switching bodies with Jason Bateman after they both wished they had each other's lives while pissing into a public fountain.
Come on. What, it snipped?
Fun fact, this was also the original pitch for the first Freaky Friday, which was originally conceived as a fetish porno.
Oh god, this is good.
Then, in 2015, Reynolds starred in Self/Less as a man who pays off his daughter's medical bills by selling his body to a company that implants the consciousness of a dying billionaire inside of him, artificially extending the billionaire's life. Haha, America. Another fun fact, this movie is the only way Jeff Bezos can achieve an erection before he makes sweet love to an Alexa-enabled toaster.
Oh!
A sort of similar thing with the mind swapping, not with Bezos priming everywhere, happens in 2016's Criminal when Reynolds' consciousness gets implanted into the brain of a sociopath, Kevin Costner. Sorry, the teleprompter says a sociopath played by Kevin Costner? Okay.
They stuck Billy in my head.
Reynolds also dabbled with the whole being inside of a body that's not his, like the world's worst mortician thing in 2013's Men in Black, but with ghosts and also stupid action comedy, R.I.P.D. There, Reynolds portrays a ghost cop who appears as
An old Chinese guy?
when he's on Earth. Similarly, in the movie The Voices, Reynolds lends his voices to a cat, a dog, a deer, and other animals that he thinks are talking to him thanks to his frickin' schizophrenia.
In her eyes, you're a ridiculous peasant.
Oh, yeah. Guess what? I'm not a peasant, Mr. Whiskers.
I'm thinking that this is a real good time for a walk.
He doesn't lend his voice, though, to the severed head of a woman he murdered who talks to him from his fridge, though. And finally, I've got a spoiler for Free Guy here, so if you haven't seen it, go watch it because it's delightful, and then come back and watch me because I'm delightful.
That's why they call them comfort zones. They're so damn comfortable.
Back for more delight? Great. So in Free Guy, Reynolds portrays a video game NPC who has technically kind of been implanted with the personality of a computer programmer, sort of transforming that programmer, you know, by the transitive property into an NPC, and also Reynolds' character into a new life form entirely. And speaking of life, success. Did you know that 2 out of 3 men will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time that they're 35? I'm hoping I've still got a few years and hopefully hairs before I hit that smooth, shiny milestone. That's about to be my whole point here. Once you go bald, you can never go back, no matter how much black coffee or straight whiskey you pour into your stomach or, you know, on top of your head. That's why you gotta be preventative and keeps the hair you got.
And that's the cool thing about Keeps. They'll set you up with a licensed doctor who will review your information online so that you can get your hair fixed without going outside or even putting on pants. They'll recommend the right hair loss treatment plan for you specifically. Then your treatment is shipped directly to your door every 3 months. And best of all, Keeps offers generic versions of FDA-approved medications so that you can save your money. And it's very cheap. And you can spend your money now on, fedoras and stuff. And because treatments usually take about 4 to 6 months to start showing results, the sooner you start, the sooner you can have luscious locks that'll be the envy of every romance novel model. So if you're ready to take action to prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/cracked or click the link in the description to receive 50% off your first order to hopefully keep like 100% of your hair. Again, that's keeps.com/cracked. Sign up today, and you, like Ryan Reynolds, can become a new life form entirely.
That brings us to our next weirdly specific nominee. Scarlett Johansson is one of the world's most well-known actresses working in Hollywood right now, but it doesn't seem to be enough for her because she just wants more. Not in terms of fame or respect, but more like evolution, like growing laser fangs and shit. At least judging by how many of her movies revolve around her attempts to ascend to the next plane of existence. Although you could make the case that this started with Under the Skin, in which she plays a seemingly featureless goo alien trying to construct a sexy human body for herself, this weird typecast probably begins with Her, where Johansson plays a smartphone AI named Samantha who falls in love with her user, played by the Joker.
That's really weird.
Is that weird? Do you think I'm weird?
Kind of.
She's essentially a flirty Siri, but unlike Apple's product, she doesn't forward your dirty talks to her developers so they can all laugh at her. By the end, Samantha and other AIs upgrade themselves and evolve into beings of pure energy, leaving Earth for a world beyond physical space, like Xbox Game Pass. From there, Johansson moved to Lucy, where she gets like a kilo of super cyber meth or whatever literally kicked into her system, and she develops superpowers like telepathy, telekinesis, and an immunity to pain, and eventually, becomes the next stage of human evolution. She then ingests more of the drug and turns into a pitch black, seemingly featureless goo alien, which allows her to move into a world beyond physical space. So basically it's just like somebody accidentally glued the scripts for Under the Skin and Her together, stuck Morgan Freeman into a sexy cyber sandwich, and just decided to roll with it.
I don't know what to say.
The idea of Johansson wanting to be more is also explored in The Island, where it's revealed that she's a clone created as a spare organ factory for a rich person. And a shocking twist, it turns out that this sentient, thinking, and feeling person who just happens to share the same DNA with some rando feels like they shouldn't be considered a lesser life form and has a right to live.
What?
Clones.
What?
Copies? What are you talking about?
No matter how much money some rich a-hole drops on their living insurance policy against any multiple organ failures that they may experience, from making sweet love to a smart toaster. Anyway, then in 2017, Johansson starred in Ghost in the Shell as Mira Killian, the first successful transplant of a human mind into a fully cybernetic body, a role that Reynolds must have been just kicking himself for not landing. By becoming the world's first true full cyborg, Johansson becomes the next step in human evolution, presenting some pretty profound questions about what it means to be human. Unfortunately, the movie was ultimately a flop, which sadly some analysts will definitely blame on its starring an Asian female lead. Perhaps one day the world will stop seeing race, and speaking of seeing, our next nominee freaking sucks at it. Before capturing and presumably eating hearts with his starring role in Hannibal, Mads Mikkelsen reportedly told his agent to keep an eye out for any badass roles he might be good for. Unfortunately, they must have had a bad connection because his agent seemingly only heard rolls, eyes, bad. I don't know how else to explain why Mikkelsen plays so many dudes with friggin' messed up eyes. His first big Hollywood role was in Casino Royale, where he plays a terrorist financier with an injured eye that occasionally leaks blood like he's been playing too many video games, or like he's been in too many video games, because I guess he also has weird leaky eyes in Death Stranding. A few years later, Mads starred in the Danish film Valhalla Rising, in which he plays a Viking warrior called One Eye, a nickname he did not get, ironically, unlike some of us.
His name is One Eye. You need a name, and you've only got one eye.
Then 2016 came around and saw the release of Doctor Strange. in which Mikkelsen plays an evil sorcerer with burns around his eyes, like he'd spent too much time playing Death Stranding and got so bored he set his eyes on fire to see if that would be more fun than playing futuristic UPS man.
Yeah. Like Mario and Princess Peach.
By the way, this would have been a great opportunity for Dr. Strange to have been an optometrist, but I guess even Kevin Feige makes mistakes.
I mean, yes.
2019 did not slow down Mad's weird vendetta against his eyes, as that year he played the Black Kaiser in the Netflix action thriller Polar, for which he sported a fashionable eye patch, not unlike his fashionable eye patch from the Three Musketeers movie.
The road that you've chosen doesn't have a rainbow.
No rainbow.
Hey, you know who else wore a fashionable eye patch? Beric from Game of Thrones. How's that for a segue? Next nominee. The series finale of Game of Thrones had millions of fans wondering, wait, do I still have time to cancel my HBO subscription before they bill me for next month? And the next big question was, what's next for Peter Dinklage after playing Tyrion Lannister for nearly a decade?
Got one idea that I'm especially psyched out of my mind about. You know, it's one of those ideas where you're just like, yes!
Well, if his filmography is any indication, he'll probably make more movies about killing kings and queens. See, on Game of Thrones, he constructs a medieval nuclear bomb to try and kill King Stannis Baratheon, and later he's accused of killing King Joffrey before fleeing and helping Queen Daenerys fight and, ultimately kill Queen Cersei.
Shame, shame, shame!
Then, in Avengers Infinity War, he plays Eitri the Dwarf, who forges the badass axe Stormbreaker for Thor, while almost killing the King of Asgard by having him stand in the energy blast of a star to reheat his forge. And that was also that he could kill Thanos, who, while not possessing any official royal title, he does really have a little king vibe, a little kingly vibe about him. I mean, the dude literally sits on a throne for like 20 movies, so unless that was actually his toilet, I'm gonna count it. Dinklage's regicidal lust followed him all the way to the Angry Birds movie, in which he voices Mighty Eagle, who fights against the Pig King Mudbeard. Finally, I really don't want to mention the movie The Chronicles of Narnia: Prince Caspian, but I feel like I have to since Dinklage plays, Dave, get this, a dwarf. He plays a dwarf. Peter Dinklage. And that dwarf is named Trumpkin. And it's important that you know, I wrote about 100 jokes about a character named Trumpkin trying to overthrow the ruler of a fantasy land, but I can't choose. So I'm just gonna move on to our final nominee.
That's the best you can come up with.
There are so many things I'd like to tell my younger self, like the curse only mentioned a bathtub of blood. It didn't specify that it had to be human. Anyway, that's why I'm kind of jealous of Bruce Willis. He's always meeting his stupid younger self.
I grow up to be a loser!
The first time this happened was probably in 12 Monkeys, where Willis plays a guinea pig in an awesome possum science experiment to travel back in time so he can figure out who caused/will cause a pandemic of global proportions, which feels like something we could use right now so that I can figure out the blood thing, not the pandemic.
In the 18th century, no such thing.
Instead, he merely manages to get shot and die in front of his little baby younger self, mentally scarring him self for life. Then, 5 years later, in 2000, Willis starred in The Kid, a seemingly heartwarming movie about a total jerk-ass meeting his kid self through magic or some shit and deciding to unjerk his ass after learning that being nice will eventually make him a millionaire and let him bang Emily Mortimer. You can also watch an old and also sort of young Bruce Willis for the price of one movie ticket in Surrogates, which is set in a world where people control android avatars of themselves that are much hotter and younger looking, allowing them to be outside while never physically leaving their homes. In some religions, this is referred to as paradise.
It's pretty cool, huh?
Oh, come on.
Then, in 2012, we of course got the movie Looper, in which Willis plays a remorseless murderer who escapes from some other murderers into the past, where his younger, though equally murderous self tries to murder him with murder.
I don't want to talk about time travel shit.
They even did makeup and CGI on Joseph Gordon-Levitt to make him look like a young Bruce Willis, and it is amazing how much they don't look alike at all. It was inevitable though, because we don't actually have any pictures of a young Bruce Willis because he was born in a time before cameras. And I also forgot the premise of the episode, but I think I won something. And scene.